Yes, 3 weeks.
So she is in it and ready to have this conversation around these important issues. Valadia Chapman is a mother, herbalist, holistic nutritionist, and performer with a passion for women's health and ancestral living. She spent several years performing on Broadway in New York City and traveling with national tours like the Book of Mormon. She now lives in Georgia, where she runs her successful online herbal apothecary and cares for her 8-acre homestead alongside her partner, Matthew, and daughter, Aura. So, welcome, Valadia. Laura Motti is the CEO and co-founder of Bobby, a VC-backed organic infant formula company. Prior to starting Bobby, she spent the last decade in the technology space from Google to Airbnb, where she was the director of hospitality and community. At Airbnb, she was responsible for scaling the support and community operations, and now she's applying that experience into disrupting another industry, which we'll hear more about in a little bit. Marina LaRude is the co-founder of LaRude, a fashion line that is as fashionable as it is fun. And I added that after checking out the website because the shoes, you can't help but smile when you look at the prints and the colors. True joy via fashion. At LaRude, Marina brings her expertise as an editor, product developer, and entrepreneur to consumers in an innovative way. Prior to LaRude, she spent years at Barney's New York, where she served as vice president fashion director. And before that, she was Teen Vogue's fashion and accessories director and spent over 12 years as fashion director at various publications. Welcome to our fabulous panel. I should have said at the beginning, I'm Abby Cuffey. I'm the executive director or executive editor at Women's Health, also a mother of two, and really excited to have this conversation here today. So let's jump right in. I think it's so important for all of us to discuss and acknowledge just how much this past year has really changed motherhood and business life, entrepreneurship, and what it means to work and be a mother at the same time. I know it's made a huge impact in my own life. My kids see me working in a whole new way that they didn't before, which has some pros and cons. But just want to hear from each panelist to get started. What's the biggest change that you've experienced in the past year, and in terms of what working mom looks like for you now? Kim, do you want to start us off on this? I know you're very new to the motherhood piece, but would love to hear how your approach has shifted in this past year.
Yeah, so first, thank you all for joining, and thank you to our amazing panelists and Abby for moderating. So yeah, it's obviously definitely been a big change the past 3 weeks, and I'm very new to it. So I'm excited to learn from all of you amazing women because I have a lot to learn. I think the past few weeks made me realize that it's definitely a challenge and something to, balance. Each day looks very different. As much as I think a great routine and schedule is helpful, I'm trying to figure out my balance and enjoying this time with my new daughter, who's 3 weeks, as well as kind of giving my love to my original baby, Aura, and trying to figure out how to do both, and knowing that I can't do both exactly how I used to do before. So just trying to figure it out in this time. So it's been in traditional Chinese medicine, they call it postpartum period, the sitting moon for 6 weeks, where you really just sit at home. And I've definitely been taking that to heart and kind of treasuring the time at home with my baby, and also knowing my team is really taking care of the other baby at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think everyone is right there with you trying to figure it out. But I love that concept of sitting, and also well timed to pandemic when we are all sitting inside way more than we used to be. Awesome. Valadia, what about for you? How has the past year changed working mom life? If it has.
It has changed because I also became a mother, but she's 9 months old now. And two things. The first would be the importance of family. I've been forced now to spend more time with the people that are close to me. And it's been beautiful because we've gotten to know each other deeper. Holidays have been weird and different, and birthdays, and everything's changed. So it's just been us. There's not much frilly stuff around the connections that I have. And yeah, so being a mother, it's helped having family close, and I have learned how to ask for help now because it's just me in the house with my man. And yeah, so I won't go off on a tangent, but that's how it's changed. And then segueing off of what you said, that we've all been sitting, the importance of movement, because I got real stagnant after being pregnant for 10 months. And then on top of that, not going anywhere and doing anything after postpartum healing because there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So doing my daily walk.
It's important. It's wild. I wear an Apple Watch, and the difference in my movement during the week when I'm working from home and sitting, and on the weekends when I'm at least a little bit more running around and active, it's crazy to see the difference in the lack of movement during the weekday. So I think that's a great point. You have to be so much more purposeful about it. So thank you for sharing, Marina. What about you?
Um, I feel I've always worked full time, and Fashion Weeks has always been extremely challenging, right? When I had to leave my house for 20 days when my daughter was, I don't know, a year and a half, and the same thing for my son later on. So this is the first time that I was able to spend a lot of time with them and being home. So I feel very grateful, and I had the most amazing, year with both of them. And certainly we created a huge bonding, because usually like my work week, it was, even if I get home every day for dinner, it's not the same thing as like being around and then like being in my office, that they know that they can just like knock the door and then I'm here. So has been an amazing experience. And also we concept La Rude, and we launched the brand within the pandemic. So they were able to see both me and my husband works towards and the born of like our third child, and that has been extremely fulfilling as well, right? They were part of it. It was like a team, right? They were sharing every single moment of it. So let's say that any celebrity that will ask for a shoe, then my son, who is like 7 years old, he's like, can I tell my teacher? I'm like, no, you cannot tell your teacher. So there, it's very, very nice to be around, but of course it is tiring, right? Because it's homeschool, and then so they're always asking for help, and then so your day, it's very much like interrupt as it comes. But so what I've learned, what works a lot for me, is after I put them to bed, more so I go and I'm able to crack it up like a lot of emails that I was interrupt during my day, right? So the day it's like fulfilled with meetings, so I can have one-on-one when everyone is working hours, and then I get to do a lot of my work from 8 to 11 or 8 to midnight or whenever that time is. So there's not that quiet time anymore.
Yeah, I hear that. I call those crazy hours my vampire hours of when I'm working, and it's just part of the routine now, and it is tiring. And as we know, like, women are taking a huge hit in pandemic world, and rejoining the workforce and everything. There's been so many articles recently. So I think it's so important to acknowledge that, along with some of the positives that we've experienced, that just, it's a whole new way of working for so many of us, women in particular. Great. Laura, what about you? Would love to hear from you on this.
Well, I'm not going to lie. It was chaos, complete chaos.
There we go. That's what I'm getting.
This topic. I had two little ones, just turned 4 and a year and a half when the pandemic hit, and I was 8 months pregnant. And we knew we were in for it, but we also thought, all of us, the pandemic started, we thought, okay, we'll give this 4 weeks, we'll give it 8 weeks. And I was sure that by the time May came around, when I had my third, that the pandemic would be over, but it wasn't. So yeah, it was chaos. We launched the company during it. 4 days after having my third child, we put forward our FDA filing, and it was just chaos. 2 toddlers at home, just had a newborn, and launching a company. But I will say, like, the biggest learning in this was just a complete mindset shift. And, you know, if I didn't change my mindset, it'd be a very different story. But, you know, we went into this saying, like, what is the working mom? That mindset shift was shifting both of those words. Now it was mom working. So just even putting mom before working completely changed things. You know, knowing that you have to put your kids first, you have to put your family first, and being able to give yourself permission. And honestly, even a year later, that mindset shift still is there. Like, I am a mom working, not the other way around. But I won't lie, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And we're still in it, but enjoying all the chaos as well.
I love that. I love that shift in how you're thinking about it. And even just changing, you know, the phrasing or how you refer to it makes such a difference in how you think of it. So actually, I would love to hear a little bit more about your story, because I feel like it's such a, it's an interesting one, because you recognize such a unique need in the market for a certain type of baby formula. So can you tell us a little bit more about the inspiration? And then I also want to hear from you about some more advice for doing this with young kids, which you've touched on already, but tell us a little bit more about your company and what you did.
Yeah. Bobby is an organic infant formula. You know, it's funny, about like 3 years ago, I would have said the word infant formula. And even myself, I would like slightly shudder, because it's such a stigmatized word and such a stigmatized product. And that's exactly why I went in to change it. As an Irish Catholic woman, I thought I would breastfeed, you know, as for 2 years. The skies would open up. It would be the most beautiful thing I will ever do as a human. And it broke my heart when I realized that I just could not produce enough supply to feed my child. I mean, truly, I look back at it being one of the strongest, like, PTSD moments that I had going into motherhood. You know, standing in a pharmacy, choosing a product that was not breast milk. And in fact, it didn't even feel like food. It felt like medicine. But it was the mental side of it that continued to play on me. And there was 2 aspects of this, going back to like the working mom piece of this. I was the director of hospitality at Airbnb. I loved my job. I love working. And the concept of getting back to work was a huge part of who I am. And at the same time, we have a government, a CDC, saying you should be breastfeeding for 35 hours a week because that's the best thing for your child for the next 6 months. And the same government says, but we can't give you paid maternity leave because we haven't put a policy in place. This conflict, where you have the same government saying, sorry, you should get back to work as quickly as possible, but by the way, can you also do this for 35 hours a week? I mean, I'm not going to put my middle finger up on this call, but it was a huge, like, you know, F you to society. Like, come on. You know, we as women, I mean, we know we can do anything. We just can't do everything. And, you know, infant formula obviously played a huge role in that, because that was a product that, if I was to balance both, I should feel proud of the product I'm feeding my child. And I just wasn't. Anyway, very naively, I went into this. The same week I found out I was pregnant with my second child, I turned to my husband and I said, I'm not having this baby until there's a better product on the market. He was like, you go for it. I thought, great, I have 9 months. This is great. Anyway, it's taken 3 years, not 9 months. And because it's taken so long, I decided to have a third child during the process. But it's been quite the journey.
It sounds like quite the journey, and the formula too is certified for European standards, right? Which is what a lot of people look for that they can't find in certain formulas.
Yeah, that was a huge goal, to make sure that we matched the EU nutritional standards, but still was FDA regulated, allowing for the safety and security. So we are the only infant formula that's designed for EU standards that is FDA regulated.
Fantastic. And I was going to ask you too, as a follow-up to that, what would you tell women who are thinking about or hoping to make a big change, or maybe start a company or take some sort of business risk while either pregnant or having young kids? I think there's this tendency to be like, don't do it. You can't do it. It's not the right time. You can't handle it. I mean, as you said, women can handle anything, but not everything. But what would you offer in terms of advice there for someone who's sort of in that mindset or thinking about it?
I think moms are the best business people, best decision makers, best workers, and probably best investors out there. So if you have an idea, it's most likely going to be successful. So 100% figure out how you offload or offboard other things in your life and just go get it done, and guaranteed it will be successful. And I also think moms, the moment you become a mother, your ability to take on 10 more things is just a natural part of what we're all made to do. So I wouldn't hesitate. And you tell your husband, your partner, whomever, that this is your time. Tell them to back away.
I love that. I love that. Such empowering advice. Okay, so while we're on that topic, actually, and you launched during a chaotic time, one of my questions for Marina was, you launched your company in November, correct? And so that was obviously height of pandemic times. And as you said, your whole family was involved. But that probably presented some craziness. Tell us a little bit more about the decision to go forward with it and make it happen at a time where the world feels a little unstable and crazy. How'd you decide to take that risk?
So I think I'm old enough to have lived through the 2009 crisis, right? And had seen so many of like my peers and so many of my husband's friends like losing their jobs and then rebounding and having such a decade after that when I saw I lost my job, or like during this period of the pandemic, and then I'm like, for a day, I'm like, okay, this is my time, done. All the doors are closed, right? There's no jobs out there. No one is gonna interview me. They're like, that's it. So I saw it pure and simple as an opportunity right at that moment. I'm like, okay, this is the push that I need. I always wanted to do my own thing for the past 20 years when I was working at various places. But then when all of a sudden you lose one thing and then all the other doors, that I think if it was in a different moment in my career, do you understand that that jobs were out there, maybe I would just be like, oh, let me search for another, like, I was like, okay, this is it, done. So that it was when maybe like in the summer last year that I conceptualized the brand with my husband, who is my co-founder with me. And we start working on it as it's like, there's no plan B. The world is going to be like this for at least another year. So we built the company not for the pandemic, but like for the years to come. And I'm very hopeful and positive that like tons of opportunities are going to be out there, not just especially for like the fashion industry or like any other industry that suffered so much during this period, and I saw all this very group of like talented creative people that were like my co-workers and then my friends in industry not being able to have a job. So we were just like talking to everyone, was like, let's do this. This is the time, right? This is the time to make a change. And that was when we started doing it. And within less than 6 months period, we launched the website with the products there. So I saw it basically as an opportunity.
I love that. When all the doors are closed, build your own door.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Valadia, from a business perspective, your apothecary, your company, your brand, that has been successful and growing pre-pandemic. So how has the past year affected that specifically for you, just in terms of like the business piece? Because we heard from Laura and Marina, who really launched in this pandemic times and saw that opportunity. So I'm curious From your perspective, what's sort of shifted from you there, or improved or changed or anything on that front?
I've got to say, we have been nothing but blessed during this time because our company is herbal medicine.
Everybody
And people
wants it.
have been,
Yeah.
people have been led to be so afraid of what are we going to do? And so we're leaning back on the earth because there's a lot to offer there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really great. We picked up really well.
Have you seen interest in specific areas of herbal medicine more so, like, or is it sort of been a shift towards people thinking about these things in new ways, or thinking about, I mean, at Women's Health, we've seen this idea of like truly taking self-care and whatever that means to you, to a whole new important level, right? Like, it's not just sort of a frivolous, you do a mask every once in a while. It's a critical part of your health and your well-being. So I'm curious if you've seen that come through, or any other areas that have really sort of expanded during this time.
I have. When I started the apothecary, I had a list of products that were wide ranging. And then I started with the reproductive ones. So we've got the yoni steaming stuff, and we've got things for PCOS, endometriosis, yeast infections, all the things for my women. And I haven't had time to formulate anything else because I'm trying to catch up. Women are feeling lost and feeling betrayed by the medical system, because we wipe a blanket over so many issues that can be cured naturally, and that can be cured by not even just herbal things, but by mental health, by support. You know, we know that through postpartum depression happens from a lot of things that could have been prevented if we were supported. So to not go on a tangent in that direction, because I'm passionate about that too. But yeah, so I'm getting a lot of feedback that women need more options for pretty much everything that we use that's conventional. We're looking for the other route because we've seen the damage it's done to our bodies, to our mothers and our daughters. And so that's what's happening now. And that's why I'm seeing my company taking a direction. We're just diving deep into the reproductive health more and more, because that's where people are needing help, and that's where I'm making a difference, and it feels good.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask you too. I also want to offer the attendees some very specific, tangible self-care, self-love advice. So, we've touched on this a little bit about all of the different expectations that women feel from society to be a certain way or do everything all at once. What are some ways that we can just nurture ourselves and self-love? I mean, you mentioned movement, which I think is so fantastic. But any other advice or sort of tips that you offer your customers, or anything, like, how can we just love ourselves a little more and take care of ourselves?
You know, when you just said the word nurture, it reminds me to remind you of something that can be a very simple tool for all of us. Instead of giving you a list of, well, we can get to know herbs more, we can meditate more, we can do our daily 30-minute walks. But we know that we always make time for our children, right? Whether we are completely exhausted and depleted, we are always going to make time for our children, and we're going to make sure that they have the best they possibly can. So when I used to do one-on-one coachings as a nutritionist, and I had my clients always telling me that they're just lacking the willpower to make the right decisions. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They just don't have the willpower. They're going to go through the McDonald's drive-thru anyway because it's right there on the way home from work, and I'm going to get the Dr. Pepper and blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying, with your child, would you allow your child, your little infant, to have Dr. Pepper or have a McDonald's chicken nugget? Oh my God, no, of course not, I wouldn't. So what is the difference between you and your child? Well, my baby is a new human, so they're growing, everything's new and fresh, new brain, everything. That's the reason why it's a special, it's a special little being. I have to take care of it. What is the difference between you and that little being? you're still changing everything we put into our bodies, everything we see, do, feel, put. We are changing. Our cells are constantly dying and regrowing, and we are still just as special. So I think the best advice I could give mothers is to see ourselves as those children again, see ourselves as that little baby, because it personally helps me every day lean towards the better choice with every little thing that I do.
That's such a great way of thinking about decisions and, all the various steps that we take, and just framing self-care. You obviously want the best for your children, and you want them to feel the best, and you're taking care of them, so you should want that too. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Kim, I have a question for you. Talking about, I know you touched on TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and it's obviously a huge mission focus of Aura, but I'm curious how you incorporate those practices that are offered at Aura in your role as an entrepreneur and now as a new mom. I think it's interesting because, these are such ancient, time-honored practices that are still so incredibly applicable in our modern day world. And as Valadia just said, people are even, becoming maybe more interested in this current time for a whole host of reasons. So I'd love to hear what that looks like for you in a personal, professional way.
Yeah. So right now, as I mentioned, the sitting moon period, which is right after you have a baby, this 6-week period where you, instead of kind of putting all the emphasis on bouncing back and doing everything you were doing, it's really taking a step back and kind of being and healing yourself and bonding with your baby. It's something, to be honest, that has been amazing, but also a bit harder to always practice every day. As you can see, I'm on a Zoom right now. But is something that I am actively been doing and enjoying, and my team has definitely been forcing me to do. So it's really kind of not forcing myself to do everything I had once done, plus have the baby, but really cherish this time. So that's been one, and it's a big tradition within traditional Chinese medicine and in the kind of healing process around postpartum. And with that as well is, using food as medicine throughout all, parts in your life. Right now it's been very specific around certain healing foods, but in general, traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture often look towards using food as a way to help heal. So one of the reasons why I had originally got into acupuncture was for digestive problems. So Gabriel always would say, well, don't have that raw kale salad and the iced coffee and all of these very cold foods, and really nourish your body. So much of what Valadia was just saying around kind of healing and, giving yourself the nutrients to heal within. So right now, definitely looking towards I've actually finally kicked my iced coffee habit, which was one thing that was much harder to do. Not caffeine, but iced coffee for now, which I'm shocked at. But I've also, been having a lot of warm healing foods and soups. And with that too, which is big around the sitting moon, is relying on community and having, not trying to do everything at home. So have not been cooking. My mom's been dropping off chicken soup. I have a lot of chicken soup if anyone wants.
Good mom, that's nice.
But having a lot of soup and relying on, your community of people around you to really help take care of mom and help kind of nourish you, to really help give you the nourishment to give then to your baby. So have been relying on my community, which is a big tradition in TCM as well. And then I did love what you said about the Apple Watch, which has always been my go-to, which was kind of movement and really, moving your stagnant qi is what they say in traditional Chinese medicine. And it's really getting your blood flow going and just getting movement to your body. So I love my Apple Watch. I have to admit, I have not worn it in 3 weeks because it's a little depressing because I'm sitting, I'm not moving. But
no need to now.
It's been in the past, my big go-to. I find just walking is meditative for me. And I love that. And I love the Apple Watch to definitely track it. Right now, though, it's like 5 steps, so it's definitely a different.
All good.
But definitely,
take a break from it for now. I also find that my little one loves the screen. Like if I'm wearing it, she's constantly hitting it and messing with all the settings. So I'm like, all right. Great. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like it's helpful to hear more about what's personally been so helpful for you, especially in this this very new mom period. I'm curious if there are, in your opinion and experience, are there, say, like 2 to 3 sort of key traditional Chinese medicine, either teachings or practice that you feel every woman can benefit from, whether mom or not? Like, what are sort of the key anchors or practices or things that you would suggest that can make a difference for everyone?
Yeah, I think one in general kind of theory around acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine is the state of balance. So Gabriel, our director of acupuncture, always says that your body is a seesaw and you're always looking to balance it out in both ways, and knowing that that balance might not be achieved on a weekly, daily basis, but kind of overall how, you can't really run both sides of this, I'm forgetting the term, but both sides of the coin at the same, or burn both sides at the same time, but really try to create that state of balance. And acupuncture is one of the actual practices and treatments that really helps get your body into a state of balance, as well as also having, healing foods, sleep, and good nourishment as well that you can do at home in addition to acupuncture. So I think one, just the general approach and thinking around balance, and not being so hard on yourself, but sort of seeing all the little things that you can do to have that, best balance for yourself. And with those little things, there's a lot of great rituals and Aura, we call them Aura rituals, that you can do to kind of kick off your day and end your day, or even different checkpoints. One of the things I love, we use essential oils. We have essential oils, and you can take a moment, it's a moment to both have the relaxing and calming effects of essential oils, but also just a moment to breathe and take for yourself. Sometimes that's even hard just to do. So I love, there's a roll-on that we have that you can just roll on, and I keep it at my desk. So even if it's just like a mid-afternoon moment to kind of take a step back and take a breath, it's just a helpful reminder in sort of setting your day. And with those two, you can actually incorporate pressure points, which has been very sort of a bigger thing because of the pandemic, since a lot of people can't get acupuncture, but you can get acupressure, which is a similar idea of applying pressure to these various points that often have calming effects and balancing, and you can kind of do that yourself when you're even just on a call. So those are some things that I've found to incorporate that have really helped and can help anyone, and easy to do, to feel better without taking taking too much time.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think it's so interesting. You mentioned previously that you can actually do through Aura, you can do like acupressure consultations, so you can learn how to do it at home. And I think that's sort of also what Faladia was touching on. It's so interesting that so many people have sort of had this awakening of these practices or techniques or things that they can do, at home to themselves with, and they make a big difference. And I think that's been an interesting thing to see just in the sort of health and wellness world, how people have been realizing the impact and the ease of some of these things that have been here and that can make a difference. So I think it's awesome that you're helping more people learn that and get access to how to do that. because I think we all could use we've all been on calls. This one I'm not talking about, but other calls and meetings where you could really use some acupressure technique to help the stress levels. Thank you for sharing that. I am definitely going to be polishing up a lot of those skills on my end. I also wanted to ask for the whole panel. As I mentioned earlier, the panel we're supporting the Lower East Side Girls Club. And I'd love to hear how resources and support at a young age did or could have made a big difference in terms of access to wellness education for you. Does anyone have a story they'd like to share here? I think it's important to talk about this piece of it, and sort of at what point you learned something or given access or realize now that you didn't have access and that could have made a difference. Anybody have a strong sort of access or support story that that feels important to share here? I'll open up to anyone. I will share one small thing to kick it off, and maybe that will inspire. I think I was raised in the Midwest, not around this. This is like such a small specific thing, but the idea of healthy eating was a little bit of a different concept to me, and I didn't eat salmon, like actually eat salmon, enjoy salmon until after college. Like it was just not the idea of healthy seafood, and it was just not in the world for me. And that's just such a small specific thing, but there were so many other elements of like eating for health. And I think about, I was an athlete when I was younger, and after sports practice, I would drink like an RC cola and, have a bunch of, other snacks, and then go to like gymnastics practice. And I was like, oh my God, I did all that activity on that. And just thinking back about some of these things that I'm like, oh, a different sort of education or understanding around that would have been amazing. That's one small little example, but I wonder if any of you have sort of stories or thoughts around that.
I have one, but I can go after.
Okay, Valadia, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I was just inspired by your story because just thinking about another part of what is so important for girls and what is passionate for me right now, especially in my life and in my company, is reproductive health. And how can we begin to heal that as a collective? So when women gather and we have something like the Lower East Side Girls where we're having mentors and we're having gatherings, we can start to bust open the stigmas and the things that they're not, like when you were talking about how you were raised. I am so blessed to have had a mother that was very detailed in everything that she told me way before I got my period, way before I had to learn anything about my blossoming womanhood, for lack of a better term. And so that is seldom. It's so seldom. I've been on many retreats, many women's circles and gatherings where we're talking about that very important time of your first bleed. And 90% of the time, most of the women were not given the proper guidance. And that is the very important pillar to how your reproductive health is going to go for the rest of your life. Because we're creating shame. We're creating, oh my God, so much negative energy around that root chakra. So now we're just completely lost, and we're given to the system to be put on all the drugs and we're cutting off the connection. So I'm very happy to be doing my little part for the Lower East Girls Club today. And hopefully that's something that we can be reminded. When women gather, we heal.
Yeah, I have goosebumps as you're talking about that, because I think we can all, as women, I think I so many people having to go on this sort of journey of discovery of breaking down the stigma around periods and menstruation and all of that, and the education that you get, at that young age is what is, as you said, sticks with you, and it can affect so many other aspects of health. So that is such a great point. Thank you for sharing that. And I saw Laura snapping there too. So yeah. Thank you. Kim, did you have one you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, so it's, one of the things that, we love or about Lower East Side Girls Club is, their creating a community and valuing education and really empowering women. And one of the things, I first sort of saw the value of community in high school. As you mentioned, I'm type 1 diabetic, and I started a babysitting service in high school that actually was for young kids with type 1 diabetes, and teenagers and young adults could babysit with teenagers and young adults who had type 1 could babysit for kids with type 1. And it was really great. It kind of started out of, I thought, of a need, because so many parents were so nervous about leaving their child with just anyone who didn't know about type 1. And so this was knowing that, having it, you really know all about it. But what I saw from it wasn't just filling the need, but was really creating a community and a mentorship, both among the child who had type 1 and the older peer, but also amongst the peer babysitters. So it started we would meet like in my kitchen, and seeing the kind of support that each of the type 1 of diabetics kind of gave to each other was as valuable as the babysitting service itself. And just that shared experience and community really made it so valuable. So, kind of when we were learning more about Lower East Side Girls Club, and even just with Aura in general, when we were starting it, a huge mission of ours was to create a community to really help people feel better and educate on things to do, both at Aura or just in general in your daily life to help you feel better. And I think it really is so powerful and can definitely have such an impact to both learn from each other and also have that support from one another.
I love that. And I feel like that we keep talking about and hearing over and over again is the support angle, whether you're, whether we're talking, young girls or now as women, it's like that is sort of the support and the education is what can make such a difference in so many ways. So thank you for sharing that story. Okay, we are nearing getting close to wrap up time, and I want to make sure we get some time to do just quick fire questions. I'm going to call it rapid fire round. I'm going to ask each of you a question, and hopefully you'll each have a quick takeaway to share. We've already touched on such good advice and topics, but I am going to do 3 questions rapid fire. So whatever comes to mind first. So first question is, what tool, device, or product helps you to prioritize motherhood and achieve career goals? All right, I'm going to start with Laura. What would be your thing?
I have access to a spreadsheet, just a random spreadsheet on my phone. And every night I rate my day professionally and personally on a scale of 1 to 5. Doesn't have much meaning, but allows me to like detox my professional and personal, where sometimes I'll rate myself low on personal, but it's high professionally. And it just allows me to go to bed with ease.
I love that. It's such a simple way to reflect. I think I might start that. All right, cool. Marina, what about you? What's your thing?
For me, it's Outlook. I put every single thing on Outlook. I have a lot of anxiety, and I think that if I put it on the Outlook, at least I don't need to be like thinking about it. I know that someone is going to remind me that I need to be there, even like date night with friends. I know that this sounds like a freak, but we book like 3 weeks in advance. I don't know, it's crazy. But I'm just like, if I book 2 weeks before, I just put in my Outlook. So I know that it's in there and I won't miss it.
Amazing. I love that. One of my favorite terms is send me an invite, put it on my calendar. Then I'll be there. Fladia, what about you?
Oh, you beat me to it because I was going to say the planner. But you know, I'm not as tech
We
savvy
are
as
planners. I love it.
I can't do the spreadsheet stuff and the online stuff. I have a big, fat, ugly planner that I write in, and I'll open that every day and I'll be there. But yeah, that's giving me my sanity.
There's a lot of good science and research behind the benefits of actually writing down, you know, with pen,
Yep.
pencil, paper. So I feel ya. There's something really satisfying too about crossing off things on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm there with you. Kim, what about you?
It was very similar. It was both my Google Calendar as well as I have notes in my cell phone, and I pretty much have personal to do and professional and everything. I forget it. If it doesn't go on that, I will not send, I will not remember anything. And I find it lives on my cell phone and computer, which kind of, it stalks me, which helps.
I love this. Get this panel like a calendar sponsorship or something. Like, yeah, Outlook, brought to you by Outlook. Okay, next question. What is your top ritual that you practice that helps you stay focused and present throughout the day? The one thing you always do, don't forget. What's that ritual for you? Kim, let's start with you on this one.
So it used to be actually a weekly acupuncture session when I was leaving my apartment. That sort of centers me for the week, and is my go-to, and I did throughout pregnancy. Now I'm kind of incorporating that and drinking tea throughout the day. I gave up iced coffee. I still have coffee, but I added tea.
Coffee is my vice, so I try to become a tea drinker. I'll see about that.
I find if I do both, it balances.
Good tip. Marina, what about you? What's that ritual?
For me, it's working out in the morning. You know, I think that if I work out and I get that sweat, then I know that I just have that boost of energy to really focus on the rest of my day. I need the workout. It's my me time.
Love that. At Women's Health, we say sweat changes everything, which feels appropriate there. Laura, what about you?
Okay, this might be TMI, but
there's no such thing as TMI here.
Okay, great. After 3 kids, it's Kegels. I'm doing Kegels all day. Need to get back to it here. So this is too much.
It's not too much. I feel like I want to know more. Like, do you practice them on your own? Like, I know there's different like devices now for Kegels. Like,
whenever I feel like I'm not in a meeting or have a moment where like, okay, great, I can just focus on work, I'm literally just like focused on doing Kegels.
I love that.
Hopefully one day I can stop, but whew, rough.
Awesome. Valadia, what about you?
Oh, that was the best answer. Mine is definitely meditation every day, multiple times a day for my sanity. But my partner and I do a very good job of like, I'm losing it. Take this baby. Peace. I'm going in the woods.
That is good. That's a good relationship to be able to tap out when you need to, and go meditate. Fantastic. Okay, last question. We've touched on so many different topics here. I would love to hear from each of you. What is the one thing that you wish more women knew about making wellness a priority? Like, what do you wish people would focus on that they're not, or that what misconception is out there that you'd like to bust? Like, what is that thing you want to leave people with today, as we've covered business, wellness, motherhood, all the things? Marina, do you want to kick us off here?
I do think that workout for sure, as you know, the sweat, I think it's huge, but I think that has been spoken a lot throughout the years. I do think mental health and therapy, it's huge. And I wish more people were able to either afford or get the help. And I do think that there is a week that we're talking a lot about mental health, but I one says that we go to therapy to deal with people that don't go to therapy, you know, and I do think that would help tremendously if women could count on someone to talk to. I think that's key.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kim, what about your takeaway here?
I'd say that wellness and self-care, it's, you can't, I think people think it's about looking good, but really you can't look good unless you feel good, and kind of changing the mindset that it's not, self-care is not selfish, it's needed to feel your best. And then really we're all such givers, and that's kind of, you need to give to yourself to be able to really give to everyone else.
Love that. Self-care is not selfish. That is so true. All right, Laura, your takeaway, other than do Kegels.
I'm doing, yeah, right. I think there was a misconception, or I've only just gotten to this place where wellness for me is actually the more I have on my plate, the better I feel. And I think there's just a misconception that wellness and self-care means reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Wellness is whatever works for you. And, you don't have to apply yourself to a list or a prescription, whatever works for you.
I love that. It might be being busy and having a full plate, and that counts. Fantastic. Valadia, what's your takeaway?
I'm going to bounce off of what Laura said a while ago, saying let your husbands or your partners take a seat because now's your time. We look at the world the way it has gone in the patriarchal umbrella. We've let the men have their reins for many, many, many years, ladies. So it is now time for us to step into our roles as the matriarchs of the land, of our families, of our workplaces, of everything that we do, because the world spins because of us. And I truly believe that we are what holds society together. We birth the babies, but we are not just that. So for me, what I would want to say is for us to step into our power, remember our matriarch essence, and then we can make decisions rooted in our best interests when we step into that, because we deserve that. So it's like bouncing off of also what I said about remembering that you're a baby, but also remembering that you are made of energy that is quite royal and important and can be dominant. Take it over, baby.
There we go. Okay.
Right.
And scene. What could I what more could I add there? No, that's fantastic. And I think it's so, it's so at the heart of everything we've been talking about here, as working moms, as entrepreneurs, doing so much and recognizing our power and the importance of taking care of ourselves, and all of those pieces are just so critical to who we are as women, and making the world spin, as Valadia said, and I love that. Okay, so we are just out of time here. This has been such a fantastic conversation, and I so appreciate all of the different panelists coming to it with different stories and advice. I feel like I want to know so much more about each of you. So for the attendees, definitely check out everyone on Instagram, the companies. I feel like there's so much here, and that's been offered. So thank you for joining for the panel, and also just for the support of the Lower East Side Girls Club, as we've talked about. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, and everyone should keep an eye on their inbox for a thank you for your attendance. And again, thank you so much from myself and to the panelists, and for Aura for bringing us all together here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.